What if our world isn't a divine gift at all, but a colossal mistake? Or, even more chilling, a cosmic prison fashioned not by an all-loving creator, but by a self-absorbed, ignorant deity? It sounds like the plot of a Hollywood blockbuster, yet this is precisely what the Gnostics believed, adherents of one of history's most enigmatic spiritual traditions. Today, we're going to journey into their astonishing universe. We'll explore why they believed the architect of our world was an evil deity, and I promise you by the end of this video, everything you thought you knew about traditional religious narratives will be turned completely on its head. So first things first, who exactly were these Gnostics? They weren't a single unified church, but rather a collection of diverse spiritual movements that flourished in the early centuries CE alongside nascent Christianity. Their views were so radical that the nascent Orthodox Church labelled them heretics and spent centuries attempting to obliterate their writings. Fortunately, in 1945, an entire library of their ancient manuscripts was discovered in Egypt, famously known as the Nag Hammadi Library, and with that, their long-hidden, secret knowledge finally came to light. So, let's break down this cosmic detective story step by step, and to truly grasp the drama, we'll need to set aside everything we think we know about the creation of the world. The Gnostic narrative doesn't begin with darkness and light, nor with the words, "let there be." It starts long before that in an entirely different dimension. Everything begins in the highest, ultimate reality, which the Gnostics called the pleroma. Imagine not a physical space, but an ocean of pure, living consciousness, infinite light, and absolute harmony. This is the pleroma, a Greek word meaning fullness or plenitude. Here there is no time, no matter, no suffering. It's a realm of perfect divine ideas, the original home of all that is spiritual. At the heart of this pleroma resides the true, unknowable God. And this isn't the bearded old man on a cloud we've been taught to imagine. The Gnostics refer to him as the invisible spirit, or the Father of all. He is so perfect and so utterly beyond our comprehension that almost nothing concrete can be said about him. He doesn't create, judge, or demand worship in our human sense. He simply is. He is absolute, self-sufficient goodness, the source of all this spiritual plenitude. This is a crucial point. The true God has absolutely no connection to our material world. Nothing is forcibly brought into existence from this singular, unknowable source. Instead, divine entities emanate from it, naturally flowing forth. Consider the sun. It doesn't choose to shine. It simply shines because it is its very nature to do so. Its rays are but an extension of its being. In the same way, from God, the Father issue forth his emanations, his thoughts, and his aspects. These divine entities are known as aeons. They are not separate deities, like those in the Greek pantheon. Rather, they are living ideas, facets of a singular divine consciousness. Examples include aeons like depth, thought, truth, life, and intellect. Crucially, they appear in male and female pairs, creating perfect harmony and balance. For instance, intellect and truth form one such pair, word and life, another. Collectively, these aeonic pairs form a divine council, which constitutes the fullness of the pleroma. They exist in eternal bliss, contemplating their Father and reflecting his divine light. This is an ideal, self-contained, and perfectly harmonious realm. One might think that in this divine symphony, not a single discordant note could ever be struck. Yet as we will soon discover, it is precisely within this perfect harmony that a catastrophe will unfold, giving birth to our very own world. But it was within this perfect system that the first flaw emerged, a cosmic disruption that would change everything. The author of this drama was one of the younger aeons. Her name was Sophia, from the Greek word for wisdom. Sophia harboured a passion, a fervent, almost reckless yearning that shattered the universal harmony. She yearned to directly apprehend the unknowable Father, to grasp his boundless essence. But she chose to do so alone, without her divine consort, an egregious transgression of the Pleroma's law. And from this imperfect, solitary act, she engendered something. It was not a new radiant aeon, but a formless, chaotic, and ignorant entity. Gnostic texts explicitly label it an abortion or an abortive mass. Horrified by what she had wrought, Sophia recoiled. She cast this monstrous progeny beyond the pleroma, into the shadows, into the void, lest it corrupt the light of the divine realm. And it was there, in that darkness and solitude, that this exiled entity began to believe itself the sole God. This very entity would in time become the architect of our world. Born of a mistake, this creature was inherently flawed. Its name was Yaldabaoth, though it's more commonly known as the Demiurge, a title meaning craftsman or creator. He was utterly ignorant. He was oblivious to his mother, Sophia, and to the radiant world of Pleroma, concealed behind a veil of darkness. Picture this. He awakened in an infinite emptiness, utterly alone. There was no one above him, no one beside him. Though he wielded immense power, inherited from his mother, his mind remained blind. Driven by his ignorance and boundless pride, he arrived at the only conclusion he could. I am God, and there are no other gods besides me. Doesn't that sound familiar? For the Gnostics, this was the pivotal moment, the greatest cosmic deception in history. They were convinced that this vain, short-tempered, and limited Demiurge was, in fact, the very creator God of the Old Testament, not the benevolent Father, but merely a pathetic, ignorant imitation of him. And so, this ignorant Demiurge, knowing no better, decides to forge his own world, his own cosmos, one he can truly command. Yet, he doesn't create something entirely new from scratch. Deep within his being, like a faint, distorted echo, resides a memory of the Pleroma, inherited from his mother Sophia. He attempts to recreate the divine structure he so dimly recalls. He crafts 7 heavens, planets, and stars. He establishes the very laws of physics and time, but all he manages to produce is a crude, imperfect material copy. Picture someone who glimpsed a masterpiece, then tried to replicate it from memory in complete darkness. The shapes might bear a resemblance, but the true essence, the light, and the very life of the original would be utterly lost. And this is how our material world comes into being. Now here's another shocking revelation. For the Gnostics, our world isn't a loving culmination of creation. Instead, it's a realm of darkness, oblivion, and suffering. It's a prison for the spirit, constructed by an ignorant architect who didn't even comprehend his own handiwork. All the beauty we perceive is merely faint reflections of the true, divine world, trapped within the confines of crude matter. Having crafted their world, the Demiurge and his archons, as Gnostics knew them, decided to populate it with living beings. Naturally, the pinnacle of this creation was to be humankind, fashioned in the very image and likeness of the Creator himself. They gaze upon the reflection of the true human from the Pleroma, a fleeting image shimmering on the dark waters below, and declare to one another, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." They take clay, the dust of the earth, and sculpt a physical body. Into it, they infuse particles of all the elements, meticulously copying the outward form. But what they create is a lifeless doll, a mere shell, unable to move or to think. It lies motionless on the ground, all the Archon's efforts to animate it proving utterly futile. They had fashioned a perfect prison, yet it was empty. The Demiurge's creation was a resounding failure. He had managed to copy only the external shape, but he could not bestow upon it the most vital essence, true life, the spark of consciousness. And then, into this cosmic drama, his mother, Sophia, watching from behind the veil, intervenes once more. She decides to rectify her mistake. Seeing the inadequacy of her son and his archons, Sophia decides to intervene covertly. She regrets having birthed this ignorant tyrant and wishes to grant his creations a chance at liberation. Through cunning, she persuades the Demiurge to imbue a lifeless human body with a spirit. But the Demiurge is unaware that along with his breath of life, Sophia secretly imparts something far more precious into man. It was a divine spark, a tiny yet immortal particle of light from the Pleroma itself, from the world of the true God. This spark is our true spirit, our higher self, our very soul. Thus, the Demiurge, unwittingly, placed a ticking time bomb within his own creation. He had imprisoned within a material cage a fragment of the divine world he knew not and greatly feared. And from that moment, the history of humanity, according to Gnostics, transforms into a tale of imprisonment. We are divine sparks, princes and princesses from the realm of light, trapped in prisons of flesh. We live in a world crafted by an ignorant jailer, the Demiurge, who believes himself our God and Creator, and we have forgotten who we are and where we came from. So, in a world where the Creator is a captor and reality itself a snare, what path could possibly lead to salvation? For the Gnostics, the answer was clear. Salvation lay not in blind faith, nor in worshipping the Demiurge, nor in adhering to his commandments. Their ultimate purpose in life was knowledge. But not just any knowledge, not the kind you find in books or learn in school. They spoke of a unique, secret, spiritual insight which they termed gnosis. The word itself comes from Greek meaning knowledge, yet it's far more than an intellectual exercise. Gnosis is a direct, intuitive revelation. It's that pivotal moment when an individual suddenly remembers their true divine nature. Picture it as a sudden awakening from a deep sleep. You suddenly realize, I am not merely this body. I am not simply my thoughts and emotions. I am an immortal spirit, a fragment of light temporarily ensnared in this shadowy realm. To attain gnosis is to finally see the bars of your prison and discover the key to your liberation. This, they believed, was the only true salvation. Now let's explore how this very idea completely flips one of the most famous stories on its head, the tale of Adam, Eve, and the serpent in the Garden of Eden. In the traditional version, God creates paradise, and the serpent arrives to spoil everything, tempting humanity with the forbidden fruit. But for the Gnostics, it was precisely the opposite. Remember who the creator God is in this context. It's the Demiurge, an ignorant jailer. For him, the Garden of Eden is a perfect, comfortable prison, where the inmates are happy and obedient because they don't know they're imprisoned. They live in blissful ignorance. And into this paradise comes the serpent. But he's not a messenger of evil. In many Gnostic texts, the serpent is a messenger of wisdom, of Sophia. He comes to awaken humanity. He tells Eve, if you eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like gods. He isn't lying. He's offering them gnosis itself, the knowledge that will help them realize their divine nature and see who their true jailer is. The serpent in this story is a liberating hero. But the Demiurge, true to his nature as a jailer, flies into a rage. Why does he forbid them from eating from the tree of knowledge? It's not out of concern for humanity. Instead, he fears they will become like him, knowing. He wants his creations to remain in ignorance, to be obedient slaves, worshipping only him. When Adam and Eve eventually partake of the fruit, their eyes are indeed opened. They gain knowledge and become ashamed of their animalistic, material nature. The Demiurge, seeing that he has lost control, furiously expels them from paradise. He curses them, condemning them to a life of suffering and eventual death. In this retelling, the expulsion from paradise isn't a punishment for sin, but rather an act born of jealousy and fear from a limited deity. The Demiurge's greatest fear is that having gained knowledge, humanity would go on to partake from the tree of life, achieving immortality and utterly breaking free from his dominion. Thus, the entire narrative of the fall transforms into a story of humanity being forcibly kept in the darkness of ignorance. But how does Christ fit into this intricate system? If the Old Testament God is the malevolent Demiurge, then whose son is Jesus? For Gnostics, the answer was clear. He certainly couldn't be the son or messenger of their cosmic jailer. In Gnostic teachings, Christ is a radically different figure. He is a messenger from the higher realm, from the pleroma itself. He was sent by the true, benevolent, and unknowable God, the Father. His mission is not to atone for original sin, which according to the Gnostics didn't even exist. Instead, his mission is to bring humanity salvific gnosis. Christ descends into the Demiurge's dark world, much like a secret agent, a spy behind enemy lines. His purpose is to awaken people to the divine spark slumbering within them. He proclaims, "The kingdom of God is within you." He demands neither blind faith nor mere worship. Instead, he urges, "Know thyself." His teachings are a secret instruction manual for escaping the cosmic prison. He points the way to awakening and a return home to the realm of light. But how do the Demiurge and his servants manage to keep billions of divine sparks imprisoned? Gnostics believed the world was structured as a multi-layered system of control. According to them, our material world is governed by the Demiurge's servants, the archons. The term archon translates to ruler or chief. These are planetary spirits dwelling in the 7 celestial spheres that encircle the Earth. Each planet, from the Moon to Saturn, acts as a kind of cosmic toll booth, each managed by its own archon. These archons are responsible for the laws of fate and destiny, which the Gnostics refer to as haimamene. Everything that happens to us, birth, death, illness, war, even our passions and desires, is part of their intricate control mechanism. They feed on our energy, our fear, and our ignorance. They engineer an endless cycle of rebirth, what we call samsara, ensuring that even after the death of the body, souls cannot escape their dominion. Instead, they are repeatedly drawn back into this material prison, stripped of any memory of their past lives. This, then, is the very matrix described 2 millennia before the silver screen. From the Gnostic perspective, our entire reality is merely a component of this vast control system. Every social institution, every religion demanding blind devotion to the Demiurge, every governmental law, even our physical bodies with their inherent needs and instincts. These are all instruments crafted by the archons. Their purpose? To keep us from ever looking beyond, from ever remembering our true nature. The archons weave an illusion of freedom, offering us fleeting pleasures and constant distractions. Their goal is to keep us perpetually preoccupied with survival, procreation, or the relentless pursuit of wealth and power. They meticulously ensure we identify solely with our physical bodies and our egos, rather than with the immortal spirit that resides within. This profound understanding explains why Gnostics often embraced an ascetic lifestyle. They deliberately sought to minimize their attachment to the material world, to food, carnal pleasures, and social connections. For them, this was not merely a path to self-perfection, but a defiant act of direct sabotage against the system itself. By renouncing the world, they refused to feed their precious energy to its dark overlords, the archons. For the Gnostic, this is precisely why salvation is a profoundly personal, internal process. It doesn't rely on church membership, rituals, or the favour of any external deity. Instead, salvation is the result of a personal effort to awaken one's inner divine spark through gnosis. The Gnostic path is one of self-knowledge. A Gnostic had to study secret texts, meditate, and contemplate the nature of reality, striving to gradually dismantle the illusions imposed by the archons. It was a true spiritual war, where their own mind served as the battlefield. The ultimate aim is to achieve gnosis, that profound enlightenment which shatters the chains of fate. One who attained gnosis was no longer a slave to the archons. They saw the world for what it truly was, an illusory prison. They understood that their true home was not here. And so they began to prepare for their final and most crucial journey, a journey home, after the death of the physical body. But what truly happens after death? For the ordinary person who lived their life in a dream, unaware of their true nature, the outlook is rather bleak. Their soul, upon leaving the body, begins its ascent through 7 celestial spheres. But at each level, a formidable archon guardian awaits. It questions and tests the soul, and if the soul lacks the secret passwords and true gnosis, it becomes frightened, loses its way, and ultimately falls back into the trap. The archons then wipe its memory clean, sending it back to earth, into a new body, to endure another cycle of suffering. However, for the awakened Gnostic, the journey is entirely different. Their soul, after death, is completely conscious and aware. It knows what lies ahead. It ascends through the archontic spheres like a liberated prisoner walking past their former captors. At each level, it confidently confronts the Archon and declares the secret passwords granted by Gnosis. It proclaims, "I know you, and I know where I am from. I am a child of light, and I am going home." The Archons are powerless against such knowledge. They cannot detain a soul that has achieved self-knowledge and are forced to yield, allowing it to continue its journey towards the light. And so, having traversed all 7 heavens, bypassed all the Archons, and left behind the Demiurge's imperfect world, the Gnostic souls finally reaches its ultimate goal. This is liberation. This is a homecoming. It pierces the veil separating the material cosmos from the spiritual realm, and at last enters the pleroma, the very divine fullness from which its spark once emanated. Here, it is no longer a separate particle, but part of a unified whole. It reunites with the true, benevolent God, with its divine mother Sophia, and with all the aeons. This is salvation in the Gnostic understanding, not eternal life in paradise, but complete dissolution into the divine light, the cessation of individual existence as we know it, and a merging with the primordial source. This is the end of exile, the end of suffering, and the ultimate return to its true nature. The journey is complete. But now, let's dive into the most shocking twist. Imagine this: a god, worshipped by millions, with temples built and sacrifices made in his name, is revealed in this system as a narcissistic, ignorant, and essentially an evil jailer. And the tempting serpent, traditionally cast as the villain, suddenly becomes the liberating hero, bringing the light of knowledge. This is the central paradigm shift in the Gnostic drama. They didn't just create an alternative mythology, they took existing sacred texts and declared, "You're reading it all wrong, you're worshipping your jailer." This idea was so radical and dangerous, it was bound to provoke a furious reaction. Gnosticism is, in essence, the first great conspiracy theory, but on a cosmic scale. It forces us to question the very nature of reality and the authority of those who claim spiritual power. To recap, the Gnostics believed our world was created by an evil, or more accurately, an ignorant god, the Demiurge, because they saw imperfection, suffering, and death within it. For them, this could not be the creation of an all-good and perfect spirit. They saw our world as a prison, and themselves as divine sparks, trapped in matter, and the only path to salvation lay through Gnosis, secret knowledge that awakened the soul and allowed it to return home, to the realm of true light. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If this cosmic journey intrigued you, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new investigations into ancient mysteries. Now a question for you. Which part of the Gnostic myth did you find most unexpected or even shocking? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really curious to read what you think.